Hi, I'm Femi Okay.
And I'm Malika Bilal. What's the secret to a happy life?
It is a question that so many of us would like to know, and one of the most asked of the Dalai Lama. But how do we reach that goal amidst so much conflict and turmoil?
We asked the Dalai Lama right now on The Stream.
Nobel Peace Prize winner and former Stream guest Kailash Satyarthi once said that the power of youth is the commonwealth for the entire world.
The Dalai Lama holds a similar belief in that young people are the key to ending global conflict. Perhaps true when you consider that the world's most violent conflicts are being fought within the most youthful populations. And to break the pattern of violence requires strong leadership, which is why a group of young peace builders from around the world have converged on the Dalai Lama's compound in India to learn from each other and the spiritual leader himself.
The event, organised by the United States Institute of Peace, aims to give the participants practical skills and also personal resilience needed to foster peace in their home countries. Joining us to talk about this, we have His Holiness the Dalai Lama and two youth leaders who are part of the US Institute of Peace event, Giannina Raffo from Venezuela and Lupai Stephen from South Sudan. Welcome, everybody. Your Holiness, it is great to see you again. I am thinking about how you share your wisdom and your thoughts, and one of them is through social media. I'm just looking at here at what you shared on the Peace Day challenge. We need to engage in dialogue to resolve rather than resorting to the use of force. And I'm wondering, if we look at our current world right now, our current state of conflict around the world, what you are saying is so out of step with how the world is actually behaving. Why is there such a big disconnect?
I always have the view. We are now in 21st century. Still, in human being, I think particularly the elder people, in their mind, still the old thinking, the 20th century, that is whenever they face some problem, the immediate reaction from their mind is how to challenge, how to face this problem by force. That's 20th century's way of thinking. First World War, Second World War, even use nuclear weapon, and then Korean War, Vietnam War. You see, these are, the 20th century sort of was the event. Everybody, think, use weapon. Through violence, you can get some benefit. I don't believe that. So now, 20th century, the reality, even continent to continent, heavily interrelated, interdependent. Therefore, now we have to sort of adopt new way to deal these problem. Not use violence, and violence very much based on the concept we and they. The reality no longer. Every nation, every continent is heavily interdependent. So actually, the reality, entire world is part of we. So now, whenever we face some problem, we have to face that problem according to that reality. So the problem, the other side, also you see part of us, part of we. So like family quarrel, you see, have to solve through talk, through dialogue. Therefore, I describing this century should be century of dialogue.
I hear what you're saying there, and so with that, I want to bring in a comment from someone who you know, someone whose face might be familiar. Take a look at my screen here. This is a man who participated in the same program as the students who are flanking you today. His name is Ahmed, and he is executive director of an NGO that works to promote peace building and conflict resolution in northeast Nigeria. He sent us a video comment about resistance in the face of conflict and violence. Here's what he's asking.
Today is 2018, and it's unlike 60 years ago when His Holiness started a resistance movement with the support of his people and his own good leadership. And today, if one should start a resistance movement, it will be very difficult to get a country, a hosting country, to host them and ensure their safety like India has done for His Holiness about 60 years ago. So what things does His Holiness think that such members of such movement could do to ensure their personal safety, and even while outside their own country, be able to push their idea to achieve what they actually want to achieve?
So how do you push for your goals when you might have to be in exile?
My goal as a Tibetan, then the preservation of Tibetan culture. I realize, as a result of meeting with many people, including many scientists and many religious sort of people, religious-minded people, and including some religious leader also, I realize the tradition which we carry originally come from India. Now, India itself, much damaged. So, living ancient Indian tradition, we kept. So, therefore, I feel Tibetan culture, Tibetan knowledge is sometimes express treasure of the world. And at least I think among the Buddhists, I think Tibetan knowledge is truly, I think, treasure of Buddhist knowledge. We always, use analyze. Even Buddha's own word, we analyze. If, through analyzation, even some Buddhist teaching, shows some contradiction, then we have the right to reject. So that kind of tradition, I really feel treasure of the world. And then psychology, then quantum physics. All these, all these knowledge come from India, but today's world, now 20th century, 21st century, I think only Tibetan tradition alive these knowledge.
Dalai Lama, sitting next to you, we have two young people. We have Giannina, and we also have Lupai, who are sitting there listening to you, nodding vigorously. Let me show our audience some of the pictures of you in conversation with them a little bit earlier. Giannina here, Gigi, is leaning forward. Just here, listening. I don't know if the Dalai Lama was talking about quantum physics at that point, but he was dropping some serious knowledge bombs. Again in conversation here. And Lupai, not leaving you out here, it looks like you told the best joke ever and the whole room is cracking up. I'm just wondering, when you're sitting there listening to His Holiness, what is it that you're learning that you couldn't learn anywhere else? Gigi, you start.
Yes, well, Your Holiness, you're like an institution when it comes to inner peace. And you always read books or trying to understand yourself a little bit better in this term to do the job that you want to do back home. But somehow, when you talk with Your Holiness the Dalai Lama, you feel that all the answers that you were looking outside, he had it. Somehow, he helped you to find it in yourself as well. So you always have that knowledge, and you just say something that click inside of you, and you start understanding many things. Yesterday, he said something really important about the relation of freedom and peace. And it's a thought that I always had in my mind, but somehow understanding and hearing his story from the time he left Tibet and now he's here in India, and the process that he has to do inside of him first to then transmit to his people and preserve his country. I think that was one of the most important things that I ever heard in my life. And I thank you very much for the knowledge sharing that you're doing here. And if you see the photo that I was laughing a lot, it's because he made a comment about he's a feminist Dalai Lama. So I was really enthusiastic to hear that he's even willing to the idea that the next Dalai Lama can be a woman. So I was really excited to hear about that.
Now that is a headline. Dalai Lama, the next Dalai Lama could be a woman? What are your thoughts about that? Is that even possible? Yes, Your Holiness.
Well, yes. You see, firstly, 2,600 years ago, Buddha Shakyamuni gave equal right, male, female. So the highest ordination we call bhikshu. That's it, bhikshu, bhikshuni. So Buddha, I think at that time, in India, I think there was some kind of sort of the discrimination, male and female. Female is considered a little bit lower, but Buddha gave equal right. So in Tibet, I think, for example, the reincarnation, about I think 700 years. So same period, the reincarnation, male Lama and female Lama. So Tibet case, I think among the highest Lama, spiritual leader, the 100 years, I mean few centuries, female there. So then, I often express, but firstly, Dalai Lama institution should continue or not my business. As early as 69, officially, formally, I express the very institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not up to Tibetan people. So if they want to keep this institution, then will remain. If they feel not much relevant, then we'll cease, no problem. Okay. But sometimes I jokingly telling people that the few, I think 6th century old Dalai Lama institution now and with a quite nice Dalai Lama. It's good.
Oh my goodness! All right. This could be a historic conversation with the last Dalai Lama. Making news here, Malika.
I want to play another video comment. This one is from an activist and child protection officer at Crown the Women South Sudan. And Lupai, I'm actually going to give this one to you. She was a former fellow and also a former stream guest a year ago when we hosted the Dalai Lama on this show. And here's what she says today.
Hi Stream, this is Aluel. I was a participant in this same program last year and I had the privilege to come back as a generation change trainer to train this year's participant. And it's not just about training the youth, the energy they bring, the stories these young people have. I feel re-energized and re-inspired just by sitting in and absorbing all the information we're sharing and receiving from them. That was just not enough. I still had the opportunity to meet His Holiness for the second time, and having to sit back and just absorb and listen to him answer the questions these young people are asking him, and just hear him get to the root cause of the problem and give them solutions from where they actually need to start work from was really refreshing for me. And I feel like this is an experience we can never find anywhere. You cannot quantify or put a price on this experience. And I'm really, really glad I got the opportunity to be part of this. And I hope more young people will still get the same spirit and, opportunity to engage with His Holiness and get to learn the way, his humility, the way he does things alone is just enough to get you changing your perspective on leadership and your peace building journey.
So Lupa, you heard her enthusiasm there for her time with the fellows and now mentoring them. I'm wondering, in your case, what are you hoping to get out of this mentoring session and this session with the fellows and with the Dalai Lama yourself?
Well, the whole session has been so exciting. One thing I learned from Aluel and the rest of the facilitators is the kind of emphasis they try to put in our daily peace building techniques that we're supposed to imply. And so I felt it was so nourishing and so encouraging, and we learned a lot of techniques on how we can build peace in our communities. But with the Dalai Lama, I grew up with my grandmother, and hearing stories and experiences of how she lived her life helped shape how I should live mine. And so with the Dalai Lama, he shared his experiences as a refugee, and also personally growing up as a refugee. I really learned a lot. And so putting the training session from all the facilitators and also the dialogue with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, putting all this together, I feel it has a really positive impact in the work that I do and in the environment that I grow up in. So the whole program is so amazing.
I'm just looking at Lupai and Gigi at the first day of your youth leaders dialogue with the Dalai Lama. I'm just going to press play so we can see some of the pictures there. As you're talking to His Holiness, are you getting a sense that he understands the part of the world that you're coming from? So Lupai, for you, South Sudan, does he know the issues there, why the conflict is still going on, and the nitty-gritty of it?
Well, I think conflict everywhere has basically same dynamics. And when I introduced him what is happening in South Sudan and myself, so he kind of related it to most of the conflicts around, and also he gave examples like the conflicts in Nigeria and also in Afghanistan. So most of the conflicts have basically the same dynamics, and so I feel all the answers and all the kind of wisdom we're trying to get from him are all relatable, and I feel he understands the kind of situations that we are in South Sudan, and so whatever advice he's trying to give for us, the youth, to have first of all our own inner peace, is something that is so general that every other conflicting country or any other youth in any other conflicting country should adhere, not only South Sudan. So it relates to South Sudan and also to any other conflicting country.
Mm-hmm. And Gigi, for you, for Venezuela, were you briefing His Holiness on what was happening in Venezuela?
Yes, I think one of the most interesting things about this program is it allows you to give him a snapshot of the conflict and the way you live the conflict, because it's way different how other Venezuelans can live it. So I have the opportunity to tell him my story of how, the crisis of food and medicine in Venezuela is getting worse and worse. And my question was related to, how this problem started from an idea and, escalate to a humanitarian crisis. So I think he has a very good understanding of the basis, as Lupai say, of the conflict, which is basically one leader or one religious idea or one political idea that escalate to, hate and conflict. So his knowledge being in conflict all his life, like when he was 14, he lost his freedom and then he came to India, I think gave him a pretty good understanding what us as youth have to live. He have to live his country as the same way I had to. So I think I can relate with him in a lot of things, and that can help me a lot to see maybe some practices that he implemented in his leadership skills to, at the end can help his people back in Tibet.
Gigi, you mentioned you've been discussing how things escalate to humanitarian crisis level. So I want to bring up two tweets directed to the Dalai Lama about two hot button issues right now that are on that humanitarian crisis level. Questions for you on Twitter. This person says, why is the Dalai Lama not doing more on the Rohingya genocide, they call it, by Myanmar? Another person writes in, what have you done to internationalize the plight of the Uyghurs in China? So two communities that are facing persecution. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, the Muslim brothers sisters in Burma, when they first this problem started, one occasion, you see, I was in Washington. Then I saw, you see, Time magazine, and the front, one picture of Buddhist monk, and describing Buddhist terrorist. I express, those Buddhist monk should visualize each Muslim brother, sisters on their shoulder, Buddha there. If Buddha come on that place, certainly protect these Muslim brother, sisters. I express that. And then later, the only way the Aung San Suu Kyi, as a Nobel laureate, I know since many years. So one occasion, when we gathered Nobel laureate meeting, I mentioned her. Burma, generally Buddhist country. And then this is such sort of expression, Buddhist terrorist. I really feel very sad. So she have to do something. Then she explained to me the difficulties, their internal situation, very complicated. She mentioned to me. And then later I wrote letter also to her. Then, beside that, of course, publicly, many cases I express my concern. And then, Uyghur people, in early 60s, we set up one committee, one representative, one representing Uyghur people. Then one Mongol, Inner Mongolian. Then we Tibetan. You see, we set up small sort of committee. And then, you see, we try to also raise the similar sort of situation. These three, within the People's Republic of China, the three autonomous regions, Mongol autonomous region, Uyghur autonomous region, Tibet autonomous region. And then, furthermore, when I was in Peking, one of the deputy, leader of the Chinese Congress, the Seftin Uyghur. So we often, you see, meet when the official meeting take place. He often, you see, has the same seat or the same line. So I quite familiar these Muslim brothers, sisters in Uyghur. So I have naturally some concern.
Your Holiness, thank you so much for joining us on the stream. We did say at the beginning of our program, what is the secret to a happy life? Can you help us with that question?
Peaceful mind, calm mind is the source of mental level happiness, joyfulness. That not through prayer, but through analyze. Then we will see anger brings anxiety. The anxiety, anger, stress, all these related. So we have to think how to reduce anger. That not through prayer, but through analyze. The anger, destructive. The emotional level, the opposite of anger is loving kindness. Basic human nature is more compassionate. So therefore, there is real hope if we pay more attention about these deeper, positive sort of quality. Then these destructive emotion automatically reduce. That's the proper way to create inner peace. With inner peace, even you passing through difficult situation, you can keep inner peace. Okay.
Thank you so much to the Dalai Lama. Thank you, Your Holiness. Thank you also to Gigi and Lupai as well. We have to end our conversation there. Malika and I will see you online. Take care, everybody.